Hello everyone! Welcome to our channel Into the University. This channel talks about a variety of things happening inside universities, share thoughts and experiences, as well as answers questions to give better understanding in academia, technology, and research. My name is Jinho Choi. I'm an assistant professor of computer science at Emory University, Atlanta, Georgia, United States. Ready to be inspired? Let's get to it. In this episode, I'll explain how to write a convincing statement of purpose that will make people to realize not having you is such a great loss in their graduate programs. I just realized that this is the year I have spent exactly a half of my life in South Korea and the other half in the United States. I was 7 when I first came to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which I consider my American home for one reason. 2 people that I have been calling my grandparents ever since I was born, Thomas and Elizabeth Janik, who have set a living example of how loving humans can be and taught us that people with different ethnicities can become a real family. Our relationship goes back in 60s, when the Janiks volunteered to be my mom's host family. Perhaps it was because Grand Tom and Betty did not have their own children, or my mom did not know anyone else in US. But their relationship turned into much more than a host family, and continued even after my mom went back to Korea. It was Grand Tom who held my mom's hand when she got married to my dad in South Carolina, and it was Grand Betty who kept the slide films of my parents for 20 years and showed me when I came back to Iowa for my college education. Both of my real grandfathers died during the Korean War, and my real grandmothers died when I was very young. So Grand Tom and Betty have been the closest grandparents I have for my whole life. They are the reason I feel home in the United States because it is the country where my American family lives. About 6 weeks ago, Grand Betty called me and said that Grand Tom was having a hard time breathing due to COVID, and the doctor said he would not make more than 6 months. As soon as I heard it, I started searching for a flight to Iowa, but Grand Tom did not want me to come because he wanted me to remember him as who he used to be. Let me share the last email I got from Grand Tom with you. The fact you wanted to come means as much as if you did. Memories are better than crying sadness and goodbyes. Our church ritual of death is celebration of life, and that's the way I would like you to remember me. There are so many good times we had together. I could write a book about them. Jinho, I remember well when you came to Cedar Rapids to learn English. You loved lying in the grass and looking at the clouds, but also you kept blowing the tires on my bicycle. Sorry I did not get to meet your boys, but did appreciate the pictures and videos. With all my love, Grand Tom. On June 18th, Grand Tom passed away. My grief is nothing compared to Grand Betty's, who had spent 75 years with him, but still, Grand Tom has meant so much to me and my family, and I would like to acknowledge that. There was a wonderful man named Thomas Janik, who had taken care of a Korean family with his beloved wife Elizabeth Janik for 3 generations. Grand Tom will always be remembered as a wise, strong, humble, and devoted person who had established a cornerstone for us to settle down in the United States. We love you, Tom. Thanks for listening to my story. It means a lot to me. Let me get back to today's topic. There are 3 sections that you should include in your statement of purpose. In the first section, you need to clarify the overarching goal of your career. Your overarching goal cannot be merely getting into a good graduate program and pursuing the degree. Please do not imagine that you will figure this out once you get admitted to a graduate program, which is a several years of commitment that you may or may not need to achieve your goal. When I applied to master's program in 2000, my eventual goal was to develop AI technology that would be able to learn by itself and give unbiased advices to students with infinite knowledge. Many people laughed at me when I showed this statement, as they all thought I watched sci-fi movies too much. But 20 years from then, I have become one of the leaders developing an AI-enabled chatbot that does exactly that. No one has a right to fool you when it comes down to your vision. Only you can judge whether your goal is realistic or not. Once you have stated your goal, you need to explain how pursuing a graduate degree would get you closer to accomplish that goal. This goes back to our earlier episode of who should apply to a graduate school. My case was very clear. Back in 2000, we could not find enough resources to experience the latest technology in AI, so that it was very difficult for me to have an in-depth understanding of AI without going through a graduate program. You need to objectively justify that pursuing a graduate degree is indeed the most effective way to meet your goal. And most of all, you need to be convinced by that yourself. Now that you know what your overarching goal is, you need to show people what you have prepared to accomplish this goal. This includes your school activities, research projects, or internship experiences. One critical thing to remember is that simply describing what you have done is not enough. You need to illustrate what you have learned from the activity, how that project is relevant to your goal, and what you would do differently to enhance the experience if you become a graduate student. For example, saying that your goal is to advance AI technology, so you have taken several courses related to AI is not enough, because it is probably the case for most students applying to the programs that you are interested in. To distinguish yourself from the rest, you need to explain how these courses change your perspective in AI and allow you to have even a deeper engagement in this area. If you have a course project related to the graduate programs that you're applying to, make sure to elaborate that this project was not a spontaneous idea, but a planned step towards the degree. If you have a good research experience, I would encourage you to propose what the next step of that research would be as you were in a graduate program. For example, describing yourself as someone who is proficient in developing deep learning models for NLP tasks again does not distinguish you from the others, as that is the case for most students, especially for ones applying to PhD programs. It is much better to express your frustration about not being able to improve your models beyond what people have already done, analyze the limitations of your current approach, and what you want to learn in order to advance this research during the graduate program. This aspect is much more important than having some research experience, because you will run into many failed ideas, and how you transform them into successful ones is the key to make a major contribution to the field. In the last section, you want to emphasize why this particular graduate program is suitable to meet your vision. If your goal is to advance technology in natural language processing, for example, You should make sure that the schools you're applying to have strong programs in natural language processing. If you're applying to PhD programs, you need to make a thorough survey of professors that you want to work with. As I have mentioned in the previous episode, that a good relationship with your advisor is the single most important thing during the PhD degree. Please make sure to understand the latest research that the professor is focusing on and describe what aspects of the research that you like and how you can contribute to advance the research. This survey may take some time. However, it is worth as you are about to select who your academic parent is going to be, not just for the next few years, but potentially for the rest of your career, as long as you are in the same field. Thanks for listening to our channel. You can listen to this podcast through YouTube, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many others. So please don't forget to subscribe. In the next episode, I'll explain how to choose graduate schools that are just right for you. So stay tuned. See you next time.